Mario Meir-Huber. Mario has been in the data field since a very long time, worked in many different companies like A1, Unica, Microsoft, and so on. He's also been full-time dad, I heard, which is very cool. And he will enlighten us about the building blocks of a successful data strategy, or many data strategies, why many data strategies fail. So, again, Mario, the stage is yours. Thanks for being here.
Thanks. So, let's get started with the topic. As already mentioned by the other Mario. Can you hear me? Yes, I think it's on. I'm talking about the building blocks of a successful data strategy. My presentation is not yet up, so I think I still need to wait, but I'll just briefly probably explain you what I'm currently doing. As Mario stated, I'm full-time dad right now. So basically, after my last job, which I quit in end of September, I went on parental leave with my small son, who is currently eagerly at home waiting for me to come back from the conference. Other than that, I'm doing quite a lot of things in the data field. So I'm teaching the topic data strategy at the Vienna University of Economics and Executive MBA field. And I will start over again working in a different company soon. So I will start in 2 weeks, then my full-time deadship is gone, more or less. I will start as Vice President for Data and Insights, not at Vienna University of Economics and Business, that's wrong, at Magenta, the telco, which is probably pretty familiar and well known. Yes, so we are still struggling with technical issues, as it seems. So this is a rather common topic when we are talking about data science. Data scientists normally struggle with the underlying data platforms. So why should it be different for us right now? If we're here on a data conference, I think it just makes sense to struggle with the technical platforms. And but I think now we got the breakthrough and the... Sorry? But it seems that we are soon ready to start. So just as a quick question, who in here is more on the data architecture or engineering part? And who is more on the data science part? So I would say, without having done a proper count right now, it's 2/3 versus 1/3. So I think we are all familiar with this topic. Yes, it seems we are ready to rock. Okay, but yeah, the clicker is working. Perfect. So already wrote that. I'm also co-author of the book of Handbook of Data Science. I think you've probably seen this today a couple of times, so I'm not going too much into detail. When there is no pandemics, I'm from time to time talking at different conferences. So I was at Chitex Dubai, which was pretty fun because I went with my daughter to Atlantis Water Park after the conference. We are developers in Berlin, data science conference now, and so on and so forth. You can contact me and reach out to me on LinkedIn, Twitter. I don't know how long I will stay there on Twitter, but let's see. Yeah, let me start with a quick opener. Now the context gun. So this is why we should talk about having a proper data strategy and data quality in place. As we all in data science, you might confuse AI with those kind of images if you feed them. So either bring their fried chicken or a nice cute dog, and AI might really mess up because they're looking so similar. But we obviously know the difference. So basically what I want to talk about today is why do companies or organizations fail with their data programs. And I was in the management of large data teams over the last couple of years and continue to do so. And I'm continuously asking myself, what can we do different to succeed? What can we do different to move on? So basically, the large consulting companies, they do promise us a lot of cost savings, performance improvements, cost or like new revenue when it comes to data-driven use cases. They promise it to the CEO or to the CFO, and then the poor data people have to execute and then run into all the challenges and the problems we have there. So It's challenging with data-driven use cases, and their implementation often fail, and there are various reasons why they fail. I've summarized some of them on this slide as well. Basically, a key differentiator from data to classic IT is that it's very different. IT often doesn't understand the complexity behind business, and business doesn't understand the IT complexity, and in between, we are getting squeezed in the data departments. Often there are specialist departments, some are written in IT, that do not have a clue about how the business works, and data is so much influenced by business and driven so much by business, and working in silos simply does not work. The thing is, we are often being questioned, or I'm often being questioned by the board, what impact does it bring to us if we deliver this topic? What's our benefit? This is often challenging to do because the benefits are being derived from the business projects. So basically, I would say all of the corporates' revenue depends on data. But I cannot do this. So they would ask us, you get a percentage of the revenue. And if I say, okay, I just want to have, we're making 5 billion a year, so I want to have 1% for the data unit, this would be fine. But the board eventually would not agree on this topic. And a couple of solutions are, and I will present something which we did as a research, or which we are still in the process as a research project at the University of Vienna, at the Economics University of Vienna, to align and to find out what are the critical success factors which you need to achieve in order not to fail in your data projects. And there are 3 main domains, and all of them, of course, have subdomains, which are technology, governance, and culture. And I would say culture is one of the key domains and the key drivers that you can become data-driven. So before we start and looking at what you should do in order to succeed with data, I would like to talk about what you should not do, or like bring you 5 options how you can fail with data within your organization. So first is to focus on building a data lake. I was one of the guys over the last 10 years in charge of telling everybody, yeah, build a data lake and all your problems are gone. And I'm really, really sorry for that. Whoever in the audience now says, hey Mario, 5 years ago you told me build a data lake and your problems are gone. That's over. We're not talking about the data lake anymore, because we do not want to talk about building a technical solution to solve a business or a cultural problem. So we were just talking about those topics before. Plus the data lake as a technology, I'm referring to the technology, Hadoop-based and stuff like that, is not the future anymore. So we have different technologies, different platforms which we can work with. Option number 2. I think I need to get closer to the laptop. Let's build everything with business impact. So in my last company, it was like, okay, create a business impact and you get a certain amount of the money back. Okay, yeah, but if we just focus on doing the use cases without getting better, we might be really challenged by the use cases because the technical platforms are not ready, and they will never be ready because we only can deliver and only have to deliver the use cases. We're not investing into governance and architecture because they don't bring any business impact. So we're not doing them. And we're just working and working and working and nothing gets done because we cannot improve the technical platforms and the capabilities we have there. So to just work on the business cases, on the use cases, it's good to work on them and to have a clear view, but it's just one part. Sorry, a lot of people will now leave the room, I guess, but one of the key metrics which was in large board areas is like, okay, we have a data problem. So what we do, we hire data scientists. They're going to solve our problems. And I remember in one of the board meetings I had over the last years, I showed them the structure, how we are going to build the data team, and all board members say, yeah, I know what the data scientists are doing, they make sense, so you can hire them, but what are those data engineers? Do we really need them? Can we just not hire more data scientists instead of them to get more efficient? I tried to explain them. Eventually, I got some data engineers, but they were squeezed together by the data scientists having a lot of demands, and the data engineers not being capable of following up with this demand. So it's very important that you have a mixed team and with mixed people and stuff like that. Option number 4, why should CXOs all on board level care about data? So if you go into companies and if you go to board meetings, one thing which you often see is that in the board meeting they have a nice printout of the reports, which were created by their data departments or by their vice presidents within the company. And this is quite challenging because they don't really care about the data and how it's being built. The new company which I just signed up for to start, one of the first meetings I had in the onboarding with the CEO of the company, he showed me some reports and he didn't look into the PowerPoint. He said like, okay, we have some KPIs, can you improve them? And he was opening the dashboard and playing with the data and getting into being capable of understanding what does data science, data engineering and those topics mean and understanding the priority. So every C-level executive needs to care about data. And also in the new company, which I said before, the CFO is an active Python programmer. So this is a way how you see that, probably not the best one though, but this is CXOs need to be aware of data. They need to be capable of working with data and they need to understand data. Of course, they don't need to do data science and they need to understand what it means to work with that. And last but not least, painful topic, who needs data governance? Just costing us a lot of money, doesn't bring us any benefit. Data quality, yeah, we'll fix it in 2 years from now. And in 2 years again, the project is being postponed. So the thing is, if you don't start with data governance at the very beginning, or as early as possible, it's getting more and more and more expensive. So you need to ensure that you have a data governance strategy and your data governance tools and implementations in place. Otherwise, it will get too costly and you will never catch up with the effort. So, but I was talking a lot about all the things you shouldn't do, but I think it's very important that you know what you should avoid doing before you say what you actually want to do. So, I was the last 8 months, had quite a lot of free time when my son was sleeping. Now that free time is getting a lot slower, less and less because he sleeps less and wants to play more. And now I have to go back to work. But I had a lot of time to think about different things. The first thing I did is I developed an iOS game with Swift and Sprite Kit for my daughter. She wanted to catch some frogs. I can show you the game afterwards. It's pretty fun to learn about Swift programming, which is a very interesting programming language. Interesting. And the other thing I did is I had a lot of interaction with, some of you probably know Axel Polaris, the professor at the Economics University of Vienna, who's very active in the data field, about how can you actually bring this kind of things like data strategy, data quality into a structured approach, because there's not much literature out there. And that's why we decided we started some research on what's possible and how can you do it. And so one of the first ideas, this is not yet a paper, we are trying to bring this into a paper and doing all the necessary research topics around it, is to have this use case. Okay, I think now it's finally dead. A cluster of the use case repository. Basically what you do is you plot your use cases in those 4 dimensions. And you have, on the one hand side, the scale, which is called maturity. This is rather focusing on the aspects I showed you before, architecture, governance, culture, where you can score. And then on the other scale, you have the impact. The impact is by business terms, financial terms, or probably importance terms. Maturity is a measure in the previously stated dimensions. So in this use case repository, basically have 4 domains. The ideal use cases, they are the low-hanging fruits. This is what we're all talking about. Those are the best projects to execute. Why? Because they bring a lot of impact in business terms, and they are easy to execute because your maturity for them is high. I will talk about maturity later on because it needs much more definition. Then we have the challengers. They also bring a lot of benefits in terms of business value, but what they are very complex to execute. So you will probably work endlessly on those topics, and not getting things done. Your project will be delayed because of various reasons. You cannot deliver as you expected to deliver them. So before you go for those projects, go for the low-hanging fruits. The reality is that the majority of projects are in the challenges because the maturity in a lot of companies is low. So you will have a lot of tough nuts to crack. Then we have the playgrounds. Those don't bring much value, but they're easy to execute. So what you can do with them, you can use them to train new people who are more junior, who get onto the job, who are new to the job and stuff like that. So the playgrounds are for training purposes, to get people up to speed, to have them to see that they can have that they can deliver some impact. And don't go for the last one. This was, I was talking about this complex with the guy from Greece, and he told me call this the underworld, where Hades is sitting. Don't go for those projects. They are really complicated to execute and don't bring impact. So nobody will cheer if you did them, and you will probably not actually get them done. So basically what this matrix does is you would plot your use cases onto this matrix and say which use cases can you execute. You have use case A and B, the first one to execute. And then you would build your data strategy on top of that, saying now that we know we have quite a lot of impact on this field, and you can quantify this field because you know the actual numbers, the business impact they will bring to you. Now you want to increase the maturity and move them up. So the next step, you increase the maturity by doing by working on necessary steps, and then you have more easy use cases to execute. You do this by improving the technical platforms, by making proper governance, by changing the culture and alike. This, of course, takes a lot of time. This is not something that you do overnight. This takes years, but this program then is scheduled to run for years. Now I see a lot of people with a question mark in their face. What is maturity? So we had first the stating it complexity, but we wanted to have a bit more positive term, and complexity would probably hit the target better, but maturity is better to work, and we can say high maturity is on top, because otherwise we would have complexity low on top. So that's why we decided to have it called maturity. So basically, what the goal of that is to have 3 areas where you as a company want to improve. You have the area of technology, of governance, and culture. The word terms are not yet finalized, so we are in constant discussion, and you know scientific discussions can take for years, so it will change. So basically, in terms of technology, we want to ensure that you're on the state-of-the-art platform of data. Governance, we want to ensure that there's a specific and great organizational governance, not just the data governance, but also the organizational governance in place. By culture, we mean to change the culture of the organization, become data-driven, to have upskilling programs, to have learning programs, to have an evangelism, education of the topics in place, and to simply teach people how they can work with data. That's culture. So those are the 3 areas where you can improve. And in each of the areas, we have still at the very beginning and still at figuring out what to do, a framework by identifying critical success factors. Critical success factors, CSFs, not CSPs, they should be called, is basically giving us the KPI, what is complexity. And what our goal behind this framework also is that we reevaluate the CSFs every once in a while and say, if you stand still in your technical platform, you will actually move backwards, because while all the others are improving, standing still will also be a way back. There are basically a lot of critical success factors for digitalization projects in literature, also some for data projects, for big data projects, data science, AI projects. And we started by grouping them into the 3 domains. And this is, I've listed some of them, not all of them, but some of them which are more relevant. For instance, in technology, the critical success factors would be what's the current state of your technical infrastructure. Are you still on-prem or already in the cloud? And then the cloud is also not black and white, because if you're on the cloud only with infrastructure, doesn't make much sense, so it should be on much PaaS or SaaS as possible. Then it's about the data modeling part. So if you have 5 different data models in place within your organization, data scientists and analysts might find it really complex to access the data, to figure out what's the right KPI. If I have 5 models, okay, I have probably 3 different KPIs which should actually go for the same topic. How do you store it? Then you have reporting and data science technology. What tools are available for the data scientists? What tools are available for the BI people? Then you have the question of the stack integration. How well is your stack integrated in the overall IT architecture? Are there any points where there is a break between IT and between the data infrastructure and stuff like that? The scalability, how well can you scale your data workloads? I think if we are working on an on-prem Hadoop cluster, we know what scalability means. There's basically no scalability. So how can you scale your technical orientation? Are you on a monolithical approach of your data platform or already working on a data mesh concept, for instance? So those are technical related. Then we have culture, which I think is a very, very important point, because if you introduce a lot of technical tools which are state-of-the-art, but nobody knows where to find them and how to use them, doesn't make much sense. So that's why culture is very important. You should do good things and then talk about them. So culture is all about getting the word out and ensuring that people can work with your data platforms. So you have the question of skills. How do you manage the skills within your organization? Is there an upskilling program in place? You have the stakeholder integration. How do you work with your stakeholders? How well are they integrated with the data units and stuff like that? Then you have know-how and support for the managers. Do the managers have technical know-how? Do they use data for the daily decisions? Do they look at data for the daily decisions? How well are data projects managed? Do you have a project management organization that works and makes sure that your data projects are managed end-to-end? It's not just a technical project and we do some fun stuff there, but we also need to ensure that we hit the timelines. And how agile are you? All of those topics, communication, how do business, IT, and data units communicate with each other? So those are also complex topics. They're not technical, but you need to take them into account. And last but not least, there is governance. And when I'm talking about governance, I'm not only talking about the technical aspects, about the data governance tools which you have in place. Of course, they are there, but it's also about data ownership. How well is the data ownership, for instance, within your organization? Do you have data stewards in the business units in place? It's about data sharing. Is your company capable of sharing data throughout your organization or outside of your organization? How do you manage data quality? How do you manage master data and stuff like that, privacy and security? All of those topics, to most people, probably sound really boring, but without them, you're doomed and not getting anything done. So someone needs to do it, unfortunately. So talking about all of that within half an hour, of course, it's just a very brief overview of what's the literature out there. I've also provided some literature at the end. They can have much more further read about critical success factors and stuff like that. But where do we want to take this model towards? So basically, we'll do much more research on this topic. This is now not just handled by the IT department within economics, but also the digitalization department of the economics of the VU Wien joined this topic now. And one of the next steps is that we evaluate the critical success factors on their impact, because we do expect that they have a different impact. Some are more important and some less. I could encourage people to get involved into this topic, to talk to us about it, to talk with each other about that. So what is important? I'm having quite a lot of discussions what critical success factors are the most important ones. And this is how we plan to set up some kind of premium in the future. We have no concrete, we only have the idea in mind, but not the concept yet, as we're at the very beginning. And we will evaluate them on probably an annual basis. This is not yet discussed. Yeah. last but not least, I want to show this cool picture. Data scientists would probably tell me this is not the right correlation, but I still like it. Data might improve your life because there's a correlation between countries per capita chocolate consumption per year and the number of Nobel laureates. So basically, as you can see, Sweden and Switzerland, who consume a lot of chocolate, have the most Nobel Prize winners. So basically, it would tell us if you eat more chocolate, you probably win a Nobel Prize. Don't quote me on this, please, because if you're getting sick from too much chocolate, I don't want to be responsible, but you can still use it if you're having some arguments about having some sweet stuff today at the end of the conference. Thank you. Still some further read, and now I'm happy for questions, fears, or doubts about this. Thank you.
Please, for the audience, if you have any questions, the mic is handed over. Do you have any questions? Maybe I start. Okay, hand it over. I start with one.
Yeah.
If you just consider the main factors like people, culture, technology, all those kinds of things, which company need to make right to have a successful data strategy, which one is the most important?
we didn't find a solution to this yet. I basically agree that from the core domains, from every core domains, all of them are more or less equal. Because if you don't change the culture, good tools doesn't help you, vice versa. If you have a great culture and everybody could use data science tools, but there are none in place, it doesn't help you much.
Yeah.
So we would rather focus on having the distinction on the detailed level, not on the top level. The top level is more or less equally. But this is up for discussion because other people are saying culture is the most important thing. So we are at the very beginning, I would say. No clear recommendation on this yet, unfortunately.
But everything has to be...
What's your opinion?
My opinion, to be honest, I think what I've seen so far, technology is all over the place. So lots of companies have migrated to cloud, for example. And so technology is everywhere. So, well, since you have the market technology, okay, what's left?
Governance and culture.
Governance and culture. Yeah. Maybe that could be the differentiating factor because just technology is just everywhere integrated. So, sorry, any other questions, please?
Right.
Mike?
So thank you for the interesting talk, and clearly this is, seems very applicable to a larger enterprise. And I was wondering if you could outline a data strategy for a startup that is just getting started. And maybe governance not the highest priority right now. How, if it's you and me and 2 laptops, what would you do strategically?
We had this question in mind. Basically, since research is very complex, we were explicitly saying it's at the moment not scope of it, because we rather focus on the larger enterprise because that's where more mess is to be cleaned up, so to say. I think in a startup, it's pretty much straightforward. You cannot do so much wrong. Of course, yes, you could also potentially do stuff wrong, but it's not as big as in large enterprises where you have different data models and stuff like that. Yeah. Sorry for this encouraging news. Was another question, I think?
I have a question. At least I have the microphone.
Just that you have the microphone. And tell me something.
So I'll ask the question.
Always up for chat.
So thank you for the nice lecture. Would you have examples of, like all of this that you described, of course everybody's working on, everybody's trying to be perfect. And what you're describing is like how it would be as if it's perfect. And when I'm thinking of all my organizations where I worked and work, nobody is close to have everything done right. All right. Are there any example of organizations where you could say, look at these people, they have done it pretty much right?
But Nico, you are the one. I was always taking you as a lighthouse.
No,
just kidding.
So is there someone, or it's more like, yeah, that's the ideal, but We are never going to get it.
Basically, we did a survey with a large consulting organization in January and February, assessing the status quo of data in Austria, and also some of those aspects were put into it, the critical success factors. And we were scoring it from 1 to 5, and the majority was on 2. So you would say it's not perfect? Yes, that's the reality. In most companies like this, framework should give you as a guidance where you need to go, because we are not there. Most companies are at the very bottom of it because data programs are heavily under-financed. There's always too much work for the people, and they're all the same problems wherever you go. So I can't give you any better answer to that, sorry. So, no role models. I mean, probably the large IT companies, I think, they are doing quite a lot, right? If you look at Silicon Valley, they're having a lot of things, right? But also think there are some challenges they're still facing there. Mm-hmm.
So, if there are not any more questions, again,
One question
thank
here.
you.
Okay.
Oh, one more?
One more, yeah.
Okay, please.
One last question.
Let's be the good one.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question. Thank you for your very interesting talk. So, could you give some tips how to improve your organization culture? Because you said it's very important to have good culture, to be data driven. But how would you work on that? How would you work that the company could be more data oriented, especially if your company is very business oriented culture?
If it's business oriented in the culture, I think most companies in fact are, because they have to deliver the euros to eventually. So basically there are a lot of different aspects in skill development programs. They can do upskilling programs. This is one part, so to have the upskilling programs in place. If you're talking about large organizations, you do normally have access to different platforms such as LinkedIn Learning, Udemy, and stuff like that. But then you need to develop the individual path, like a path for data scientists, path for data engineers, architects, and stuff like that. So this is from the skill development part. Then you have the cultural part, how to get people involved. You need to find champions within the business unit who are capable of doing with data. There is always someone in business who's working on a daily basis with data and who are really into the topic, who can probably also program, who can probably use tools such as reporting tools. So they do have some knowledge there. Find those people and then constantly work with them, because they are your multipliers. If you don't have any multipliers in the business units, it's getting challenging. Because you can't do all of the work, so you need to find the multipliers in the business units. They are there in every organization. I know that. So whatever organization I was coming into, there were always people and multipliers. You just need to identify them. And then you need to in-source them from a perspective that you have constant touch points with them, that you update them what's going on and stuff like that. This is stakeholder management. It's not a technical task, but you need to have someone that can translate from the business terms to the technical terms and vice versa. A challenging job, but a very interesting one, I think. Thanks. Okay.
Thank you. So again, please, a big applause.